know recycling is not the end-all be-all of living zero waste. It's a great thing for us to be recycling correctly, and I don't think that we should be giving up recycling. But zero waste truly is so much more than using your blue curbside bin. Let's instead also focus on reducing how much single-use products we're buying, reusing as much as we can, refilling as much as we can, and using our recycling bin as a last resort over the landfill. But that being said, again, it is important that we recycle correctly and understand these common recycling myths. Hello everyone, it's Emma and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all sorts of things zero waste, focusing on free, easy, and fun ways to live low waste and ways that we can all be activists. I talk a little bit too fast, I am aware, I am trying to work on it. So please, for the time being, use the gear icon right down here to change the speed of the video to something that better suits you. Recycling used to be my bread and butter. It was like truly all I talked about in the early days of my channel, 2019 even, 2020, 2021. But I have since kind of given up recycling. Okay. That's not what I meant at all. I've given up talking about recycling, folks, because I feel like I've already covered most of it, but I'm always reminded that people are starting their zero waste journey every single day. Just because I'm a little bit more advanced in my zero waste journey doesn't mean that people can't learn about recycling and stuff that I would consider beginner stuff right here, right now, just because I learned about it 5, 6, 7 years ago. So let's bring it back to the basics. Let's talk about recycling in today's video. Starting with myth number 1, that recycling is a scam and nothing gets recycled. This is false, though to be fair, recycling is not great. Recycling rates are around 5 to 10% for plastic, 30% for glass, 60% for paper, and 90% for metal in the US. So as you can see, some are very profitable and very well done, and others are clearly lacking. So I can see why people think specifically plastic recycling is a scam. So perhaps instead, in your neighborhood, you've seen your garbage truck come up to your house, take your garbage and your recycling. Does that make recycling a scam? No. That most likely just means that somebody's doing their job incorrectly. Nowhere in the US is it commonplace for the same truck to pick up both bins. If that has happened, I highly encourage you call your recycling facility and or your trash facility to see what the problem here is and what the confusion is. And not only are there flaws in recycling, faults of the recycling companies, faults of the recycling industry, it's also a little bit of our responsibility as well. We are responsible for what goes in our bins and what doesn't. So make sure you're following the rules. The more that we follow the rules, the better that our rates become. Make sure that your recycling is clean and dry, more on this later, and that you only place accepted materials into the bin. No trash, no compost, and no wish cycling. If you've never heard the term wish cycling before, you can check out this video all about that next. Myth number 2, everything is recyclable. This is true and false. Technically speaking, yes, everything does have the potential to be recycled. That does not mean that it is accepted in your curbside bin though. Every item requires different recycling facilities and processes, from rigid plastic to thin plastic to electronics to clothing and everything in between. Yes, glass is highly recyclable, but your city might not have a glass recycling facility, meaning it's not accepted in your local curbside bin. Yes, in theory, that thin plastic bag can be recycled, but it doesn't mean it's accepted in your region. If I had $1 for every time I said this on my channel, I could probably retire. When in doubt, check your local rules for recycling. Do this before putting anything in your bin. Make sure you understand your rules very clearly, and if you're interested in reducing what you send to the landfill, check out special programs like TerraCycle that allow you to recycle odds and ends. Myth number 3, everything with a recycling symbol on it is recyclable. No, this is false. So why is there a recycling symbol on it? Again, it's a technicality of the industry. Every material is assigned a recycling identification code. Maybe you've seen a water bottle with a recycling symbol on the bottom with a number 1 on the inside of it. This is a resin identification code, or RIC, and they look something like this. Even paper types, metal types, and glass types are assigned these codes as well. But again, this does not make them acceptable for your curbside bin necessarily. So once again, check your rules before putting something in your bin, but what is the purpose of this code? What does it even mean? This code is meant for recyclers and businesses who buy recycled materials. It helps them sort and properly recycle items based on their chemical makeup, because not everything can be recycled together. Plastics number 1 cannot be recycled with plastics number 2, and all the way through all the different 7 types of plastic, but you can learn more about the different types of plastic in this video. Myth number 4, all paper products are recyclable. But didn't I just highlight the high recycling rates of paper? Yes, and that is stuff like printer paper, magazines, newspaper, shipping boxes. But think about the other types of paper that you use in your life. Tissues, napkins, and toilet paper, just to name a few. That stuff is not recyclable for one reason: contamination. Recycling has to be clean to ensure a good batch of recycled material for someone else to use later down the line. No one wants your snot in their recycled paper notebook. But what about things like greasy pizza boxes? Here's a little half myth. It really depends on the level of food contamination. It used to be truly back in the day that you could not recycle any grease on your pizza box. It had to be fully grease free. Of course, still to this day, if it's got like very, very sticky cheese, a lot of sauce, stuck bread to it, that is too much contamination. But if it's just a few splotches of grease and you have removed the rest of the bread and the sauce and the crumbs, this is actually fine. The American Forest and Paper Association confirms that unless your box is literally saturated front to back with grease, a little grease won't do any harm. But if you're still wary about this, cut out the greasy parts, compost them, and recycle the clean parts. parts. It doesn't hurt to go the extra step. So that leads us to myth number 5. Your recycling has to be squeaky clean and perfectly dry. False, but they do have to be mostly clean and mostly dry. For example, an empty peanut butter jar that you just emptied but still has a ton of peanut butter residue in it should not be recycled. But your can that you just emptied of canned corn does not have to be scrubbed with a brush and soap. A quick rinse to get out the remaining liquid of that canned corn will get the job done. So yes, your recycling does have to be clean and dry, but like relatively clean. It doesn't have to be scrubbed clean with elbow grease. It doesn't have to be spotless. Once again, this comes down to contamination. If you have a jar of pasta sauce that you put in your recycling bin, that pasta sauce can get all over the paper, all over the plastic, and contaminate your entire batch of recycling. Because yes, recycling is cleaned later down the line. That glass jar full of crusty pasta sauce will be cleaned, but it is far easier to clean a glass jar than it is a piece of paper. And that is why ultimately in our single stream recycling, it is important that all of our recycling is clean to prevent contamination of stuff that cannot be sanitized later down the line. And as I mentioned, single stream recycling in the US is very popular. It is when we put all of our recyclables in the same container. My lazy hack here is to throw stuff like metal, glass, and thick plastic in the dishwasher. Though please be careful of melting plastic that is too thin. And if you want more ways to outlive zero waste in a lazy way, you can check out this video next. Myth number 6, single-use plastic gets turned into new single-use plastic. This is false. Plastic is what we actually call downcycled, which you can learn more about in this video. This means that it is downgraded into something else, such as a park bench, a piece of clothing, or kitchen utensils. Now, this is very valuable to continue to use recycled materials across all areas of human life, but this is not great news since it likely won't get recycled again. And that's the case for all plastic. Plastic can really only be recycled once or twice before the polymers get too small to be recycled again. But fortunately, this is not the case for metal, glass, and paper. Paper can be recycled about 7 times, which I experimented with in 2020. I made my own paper at home that you can check out in this video. But glass and metal can be recycled infinitely. Their structure does not degrade over time. Let's just say my water bottle, for example. This piece of metal, ignoring the lid, can be recycled into something the same exact size, can be recycled into something the same exact size. Meanwhile, like a plastic water bottle we'll just use this for example, pretend this is plastic. Recycling it once would probably half its size, and recycling it a second time would half its size again, and eventually you would be left with nothing. So this shows why glass and metal recycling are so valuable monetary-wise, but also why plastic recycling really is not valuable at all. Myth number 7, this is a very commonly asked one. I can put my bioplastics in my recycling bin. Unfortunately, this is true and false depending on where you live, depending on what that bioplastic is made out of. Bioplastics function the same as oil-based plastic, except they are made from plants. They even have the same chemical makeup. This makes them recyclable with their counterparts. For example, a PET number 1 bottle, which is polyethylene terephthalate, made of oil-based plastic or plant-based plastics, can be recycled together. Usually. Do not take this as a blanket statement to recycle your bioplastics. Once again, check your local rules to see what they accept. And also you have to be really mindful about what that bioplastic is even made out of. And the main problem here with why bioplastics are not being recycled is because bioplastics are not usually a substitute for rigid plastics. Bioplastics most often take the place of thin plastics like bags, makeup wipes, and things of that nature. And thin plastics are rarely recycled, whether they are made from plants or oil. So does this mean you should be composting your bioplastics? Maybe. Do you have commercial composting? That's really what it comes down to. Bioplastics are very difficult to recycle at home unless they are 100% guaranteed made out of plants, 100% plants, because if you try to compost something that's like partial plants, partial oil at home, it's really not going to work out and you're going to get microplastics in your compost. So does this mean that we should stop buying bioplastics then since it's so complicated? Well, plastic is never great regardless of if it's made out of oil or plants, but plant-based plastic is less pollutive to create. Bioplastics also, when 100% made out of plants, do not break down into microplastics. So there are still a lot of benefits to buying bioplastics even if you can't compost them and even if they're not accepted for recycling. It's very flawed, it's very nuanced, but I have a full video about bioplastics where you can learn more in this video. It's really old, so I want to make a new one. Let me know if there would be interest on it. Myth number 8, you can recycle paper without removing plastic and metal components. This is true. Very commonly back in the day, we were always told to remove staples, to remove plastic windows from envelopes, to remove tape and things like that. And usually, but you know what I'm gonna say here, check your local rules first, you can leave all of this on the paper. But why? Didn't I just say that mixed materials can't be recycled together? Yes, things like toothpaste tubes that are partially plastic, partially metal cannot be recycled at all. So why are these components on paper any different? Well, first, they are not actually connected together. They are separate materials. And it's very easy to separate these things in the paper recycling process. Paper needs to be turned into a watery pulp to be turned into new paper. So when it gets soggy, the plastic and metal components release from the paper parts and it can be sifted out to ensure a 100% paper pulp. Now, I still recommend that you remove these at home if you have have the time, if you have the ability, etc. Because the better that we recycle at home, the better our recycling systems become. This can ensure 100% guarantee that there is less contamination in the recycling process. The better we follow the rules, the better that we aid the system, the better that it all becomes. Myth number 9, you can recycle cartons. True and false. From ice cream tubs to milk cartons and things of that nature, these are often called things like carton board or Tetra Pak. Tetra Pak is just the brand name like Kleenex. Calling a tissue Kleenex is like calling a carton board Tetra Pak. These are mixed materials made out of paper, metal, and plastic, all combined, making it very difficult to recycle. So yes, again, in theory, they can be recycled. And fortunately, recycling rates for Tetra Pak are on the rise. But it's still quite uncommon to recycle them. I have lived in, Ohio, Texas, Nevada, Washington, Minnesota, California. I've lived in 6 US states. I've only had access to carton board recycling in 2, in Las Vegas and in Ohio, the second time I lived in Ohio. Like, Ohio just got this about a year and a half ago. So keep your eye out. Maybe your area doesn't have Tetra Pak recycling right now, but it will in the future. So recycling for this material is pretty hit or miss, and this helps me determine at least which kind of plant milk that I'm gonna buy based off of which material I should be purchasing it in. And I have a full deep dive on all things Tetra Pak that you can learn more about in this video if I have cards. Our last myth for the day is my work here is done once it's in my bin. True and false. If you're a big fan of recycling, your thoughts shouldn't end once you put that bottle in your recycling bin. You should also support the recycling industry on the other side. Recycling is a business after all. If nobody buys recycled materials, there won't ever be a need to collect your blue bin and take the time, energy, resources, and money to recycle it into something else. So shop for recycled paper notebooks, recycled plastic clothing, and recycled glass bottles. Supporting the recycling industry means conserving energy, conserving water, and preventing all of these resources from being extracted in new ways. We can reuse what has already been extracted and already entered the waste stream instead of mining for new materials. This is a great way for us to participate in a circular economy versus a linear one. And I have more information about which material is best when it comes to recycling rates, emissions, creating it brand new, etc., that you can check out right here. I'm sure there are more, so drop your common recycling myths down below, and I will bust those in a future video. And if you are new to the zero waste movement, you have never really gotten into recycling before, I have a full recycling playlist that you can check out above if there's cards. If not, the playlist is down below. And also, if you're new to zero waste, might I interest you in my Zero Waste in a Year guide. This guide is always on sale. If you find out about this guide on my YouTube channel with code YouTube15, you get 15% off. In this guide, we tackle a new subject every single month. One of those subjects is recycling. So that way, in a full year, you can go from knowing nothing about zero waste to being pretty well off on your own to continue your journey past that year mark. And yes, you can pick up this guide right here, right now, whenever this video publishes in the middle of the year, and you can start it right now. You do not have to start it on January 1st. You don't have to start it on the 1st of any month. It is formulated that you can start it any single day. You can pick it up, you can put it down, you can start it back up when you have time. So it is great for busy folks as well. Thank you for taking some time to learn about recycling. Once again, don't forget to drop your recycling myths down below, and thank you for watching. I truly appreciate your time. As always, I will see you in the next video, but until then, remember that your small actions make a big difference in the long run. Bye, guys. I know, recycling is not the end-all be-all of but zero waste truly is so much more than just using your blurk blue. Every material is assigned to throw stuff like metal, glass, and thick plastic in the washing machine. What do you call it? A dishwasher. Myth.
You say hello to the audience?
Everybody loves you. Ugh. Oh, she's a baby. How long are you gonna stay here? But I got work to do. I'm almost done. I promise she doesn't want to move. What? You like this? Let's take a picture again. Smile. You're free to go whenever.
Very sweet.
Where was I?